Probably the most iconic of all of the Web 2.0 features that most of us come into contact with when we surf the web is the auto-completing text box. Of course, we always see it at Google. The moment we type in a letter, it almost immediately gives us a list of possible things that we could be searching for. And as we our kind of the more letters we add, it then subsequently reduces the list of potential things that we might be searching for. So it's extremely important. In our case, probably the place where we're most likely to use it is in relation to the tags. I mean, at the moment in the list of papers, we've got a drop-down list which will give us all a sequence of tags for any particular paper that we can then choose to search on. But I mean, at the moment we've only got about 6 tags in the database. Should that number, as almost certainly would happen in real life, go above about 15 or 20, then that kind of drop-down list is going to become very unwieldy and not very easy to use, since a lot of the tags might no longer be visible to the user because it's gone off screen. So in that case, then an autocomplete text box is quite likely to be a much better solution. Okay. Now, before we start doing autocomplete text boxes, I think what I need to do is just explain you the logic of how they work in the Ajax Control Toolkit. So I'm just going to take a minute now to draw a little diagram for you. So imagining we're going to be putting in a text box in a page. Okay. So this text box somehow needs to be communicating with our database and knowing all the possible tags that exist in that database in order to be able to give us suggestions. Okay. So in practice, what we do in ASP.NET is we create the tool, the text box, then we add an extender to it, a so-called an autocomplete extender, and in the autocomplete extender we give it the address of what is called a web service. Okay, for those who've not covered across web services before, what a web service is essentially a web, not really a page, but something, a web piece of web functionality, something that exists on the web which responds to function calls. I mean, just as in when we're programming, we can call other libraries and use the functions inside other libraries. Essentially, what a web service is we can call a function which is being held at some other web address. So imagining in Visual Studio or in the .NET kind of framework, those such types of web services are called .asmx files. So if we imagine something like we have a file called AutoCompleting.asmx, and I'm just going to now make that font a little larger. So let's just make that 16. Okay, so we've got this kind of this file called autocomplete.asmx. Okay, that is where we have kind of that is where we will keep our that is the place which will be the service which we're reading from the database. So therefore, when we type in a letter into this text box, that then goes off and consults this web service, okay, which is going to be ASMX, autocomplete.asmx. But then the web service then consults a database, okay, and in that database it works out, okay, what letters has this person already typed? So imagine in our case they've typed the letter U, okay. So then this kind of letter U is kind of then checked against the database. Okay, the database will find out, aha, yes, that's we have got a word which is similar to that in the database, and that word is ubiquity. Okay, and then so then basically then what that happens is then this ubiquity thing then can then appear inside our text box, okay, or appears just underneath, typically appears just underneath the text box, and then we get the suggestion, okay, ubiquity, Okay, so now what? Let's just type that in, equity. Okay, so that is how it works in ASP.NET. That's how we do it. So somebody types in a U, the U goes up to the web service asks the database, what have you got which looks like U? The database says, oh, I've got a ubiquity, that looks like U. Sends it back to, and that becomes a possible thing that you can put into the text box. Okay, so now then, in just a few other little things just to explain. So essentially, this web service will be taking a parameter, which will be something like part of that word. So it could be, it could be the user has typed in UBI, or they've just typed in a B, or they've just typed in a U. Okay, so so it's taking, if you like, a prefix. The prefix is going up to the web service. Then the web service is interrogating the database. What have you got which looks like that? Now, in SQL, when you trying to do a kind of query, which is trying to find out things which are similar strings, the typical format is something like this: select star from my table where my field like, and then single quote U%. Okay, the percent means is a wild card. It means U plus anything else. Okay, so somehow we've got to kind of send up the U up to the web service. The web service then has got to query the database, get similar terms. Then the service has to send back all of the example tags which are like U as an array of strings. Okay, so then we've got to convert then this query of the database, which has got a set of record sets, turn that into an array of strings, and then we can send it back to the text field. Okay, it goes back to the text field finally, and the text field can then choose to show it. Okay, so that's a kind of like a sort of the round table. That's what really happens when we're doing these sorts of things. Okay, so let's kind of like start. Okay, by first of all we'll create the page which has got the text with the text box in, and then we'll create the web service. Okay, so first of all let's create the page with the text box. Now, of course, I mean ultimately I'd like to put it into mobile standards.aspx, because that's got the list of all the papers, and that's where it will be most useful. But in order to kind of just understand the concepts now, I'm going to isolate it and just put it in a separate page. So I'm going to add, okay, a new item, and again it's going to be an Ajax web form. Okay, so web form. Now let's call it AutoComplete. No, let's just not call it that. Let's just call it textbox.aspx, because just to make sure we don't get confused, I'm going to call the web service autocomplete.asmx, just in case there's any sort of kind of confusion later on. Okay, so we've done that. Now then, let's kind of move the Solution Explorer a bit to the right. And now what we're going to do is we're going to bring up go into the design view, and we're going to view the toolbox. And first of all, we're going to drag a text box into the page. Okay, just your average ordinary text box. Okay, that goes into the page, and then what we're going to do is we're going to drag an extender over it. So I'm going to find the autocomplete extender here, which is here in my case, and then I'm going to drag that over the page, and then eventually it's going to go over the text box, and I'm going to let go. Okay, and then by virtue of doing that, I've associated the autocomplete extender, which is the thing which is going to be polling the web service. Okay, so there it is. Now if I go into the source, okay, I've got my my text box, okay, and I've got my autocomplete extender, and the text box ID is textbox1, and the target control ID for the autocomplete extender is textbox1. Okay, so we've got that all sorted out. Okay, so that's good. Now then, let's get on to our web service. Okay, so now here, if you've not seen this thing before, I'm going to create a new item. So add new item, and here then go down to the bottom of the page, and you'll see there web service. And a web service is particularly noted by the fact it has a .asmx suffix. Okay, so this is our web service, and we're going to call this autocomplete. So here we've got our, so this will establish our web service, which has got some slightly kind of forbidding stuff at the top which you've never seen before, namely something here which specifies it to indeed be a web service. If I just hide the Solution Explorer a second and the toolbox, you'll see there a very first line, to allow this web service to be called from script. And in Ajax, we're virtually doing everything from script, although in a way it's concealed from us. Everything's happening through script. Using Ajax, do ASP.NET.Ajax, uncomment the following line. You see this following line, system.webscript services, script service. You've got to uncomment this in order for this to be readable from an Ajax-based web page. Okay, so that's the crucial thing. We need to do that. Okay. Now then, here it is. It's described here: public function hello world as string. Now, in this case, means that this web service has so far only one function, which allows other web pages to call it and run the function hello world, and it will return back the phrase hello world as a string. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace that, and we're going to call it something like get tags. Sorry, wait a minute. It's going to be called get tags from prefix. But this, therefore, as a consequence, will need a function, a parameter. Okay. It'll need a parameter which is going to be, the very first few letters the user has typed, and which we'll call prefix. So we call that bival prefix as string. Okay, so that's the parameter we're passing in, which will be just the few letters the user has typed. Now the initial one, hello world, returned one string, but we're not going to return one string. We're going to return many strings. We're going to return everything in our database which looks like what the user has currently typed, or starts with what the user has just typed. So we're going to return an array of strings, and to turn a string into an array of strings, we put in an open bracket and a close bracket. That's the VB.NET array notation. Okay, get tags from prefix by val prefix as string as string. Okay, so that's our command for that is our setting up the function in order to return a string. Okay, now then, the as per usual, we're just going to kind of like put in our we're going to create our OLEDB stuff. Now, of course, we need to write an import statement at the top of the file to bring in this OLEDB stuff. So imports system.data.oledb. Okay, so that's splendid. We've got that done. Now then, we'll copy and paste just the first two lines of any of these things which use OLEDB. Namely, we're going to copy and paste the we're going to create a connection object, and then we're going to open it. Okay, so we've done those first two things. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to create our sort of basic SQL of it. Okay, now then, it's fairly simple, the SQL here. If we go to the tag, which basically here's a list of tags. Okay, and the tag is just a table which has got tags in it, basically. So the table is tags and the field is tag. So we just really, it says select star from tags where tag. Now this time it's not going to be where tag equals anything. It's where tag like. Okay. So that's what we're going to put in. So let's go back into our code, and so something like this is going again. This is the sort of abstract representation of the SQL command. Okay. Dim, so get tags SQL as string, select tag from tags where tag like prefix text. Okay, so like that I've put in just a sort of a term there, just to make. I've used it not the same as prefix here because there are a few little things that we're going to do to this prefix before we enter it into the SQL. Because at the moment, okay, remember I said that to actually do the like, you need the % character inside that prefix in order to actually make it use the wildcard. And there is, of course, the danger that the user themselves might put in a % tag. Okay, so what I think we're going to do first of all is we're going to make sure the user will get rid of any kind of funny characters the user might put in. Well, just the % character in this case. So we're going to say prefix equals replace prefix. The replace function is for strings. It takes the initial string. It says what you want to find in the string. Okay, and in my case, it's just a single %. And what are you going to replace it with? We're going to replace it with nothing. So if there's any kind of % tags in the string which the user has typed, we're going to get rid of them. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to put our own % at the end of the prefix string. So we're going to say prefix equals prefix ampersand quote %, which means that now whatever is the user typed in, it's going to say if they've typed in a U, it's going to become U%. Okay, and if they've kind of irritatingly typed in U%, it's going to get rid of that first %, leaving just a U, and then we're going to add our own %. And it just means that in that case we won't get 2% signs in the string. Okay, so having done all that, now let's kind of create our OLEDB command object. So let's go like dim get so let's call it tags db cmd command. Okay, equals new OLEDB command. Okay, we've done this many times before. The first function is the SQL, get tags SQL. Okay, SQL. And the second one is the connection object, which is called OLEDBcon. Okay, so we've done that. There's our text on. Now we're going to do our we're going to change the parameter of this thing, prefix text, and we're going to replace it with prefix. So what we're going to do now is say tags db cmd dot parameters dot add with value open bracket, okay, quote sorry, so add with values, or what was that? I don't know what I did there. Quote at prefix text. Going to replace that with the value prefix. Okay, so that's the essentially that's the thing we passed in, but then we actually changed it a bit before we passed it into our function. Okay, okay. So now then we've got our command. Okay, and then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a data reader object. So dim sort of like something like tags db reader equals tags dbcmd dot execute reader. Okay, so now then inside that tags db reader, we've got now every record in the tags table which starts with the text that the user has typed into the text box. Okay, now then, but we've got to convert this. So we've got this list of records, but we've got to convert this into a string array. Okay, so what we're going to do is first of all we're going to create a list object, and then once we've filled this list up, we're going to then convert that into a string array. Okay, so let's first of all now create a list object. So let's call it dim found tags list as new list. And now here we can actually say, just you don't have to, but you can say of what type it is. And I'm going to say of string. I'm going to create a list of strings. I'm going to go through this database. I'm going to go through this list of tags, and I'm going to create an array of a list of strings. And then eventually I'm going to convert that string into an array of strings. Okay. So having done that, let's now kind of like if okay tags db reader dot has rows. This is just a function which asks, is there more than 0 results returned from this query that I've just made? Are there more than 0 tags which begin with U? That's the sort of question that we're asking with that comment. Okay, so we do that has rows. If tag reader has rows, then Okay, now then, we're going to do a loop, and we're going to go through all of the tags that the table, that the record set contains. So we say, while tags db reader, okay, dot read, so while there are still records to read, literally, that's what that means, okay, I'm going to now add to this thing called found tags list. Found tags list, okay, dot add, open bracket, now here we just put tags db reader open bracket quote tag. That's the name of the field inside the tag table which has got the tag. Okay, so that's it. So we're adding that into our list of tags. Okay, so it's basically looping through all the records that we've sent back, and it's kind of adding them into the into this found tags list. Okay, and then once you get to that, we're going to say end if. Oh dear. So it ends, oh dear, it's end of end handle right. This usually happens when if tag readers, I'll just type in end if, and then I'll put a space in manually just to stop that happening. Okay, great. So now we've done our we've got our found tags list. We've kind of populated it with all the tags we've found. Now then, we've just got to convert that into an array. So we just put return found tags list dot to array. Okay, and that will convert this list object, which is that's why I couldn't have an end if, because it would have an extra one. That will convert this list item, which is a convenience tool which allows us to very easily add things to it, back into an array, which is a kind of a less flexible option, but is, however, more easily consumed by another program. Okay, so there we've got it. We've got our get tags from prefix, okay, function set up in our web service. Okay, now having done that, we've got to, now does this actually work? Because there's no point in associating it with our text field in the textbox.aspx file if this doesn't actually work. But you can, the nice thing about this is it's very easy to test in ASP.NET. We just kind of, what we do is we run it, and this won't actually show a web page, because remember, this is not a web page we're generating. We're generating just some data, essentially. We are taking some text that the user sends and sending back something based on it. Okay, so we're taking what we believe to be the beginning of the letter that a user types, and we're sending something back. Now, I'm going to go back into, I'm going to just log in as whoever it is. Who should I be? Johnny. Let's try Johnny. Yep, yeah, there's Johnny, and I'm going to log in. Okay, and then this is going to take me now into the ASMX harness. Okay, right, or the kind of autocomplete page. Now you see here, the following operations are supported. For a formal definition, here's the service description. Okay, but it doesn't matter for now. So there's get tags from prefix. Okay, so I'm going to click on this, get tag from prefix, and what it is, to test the operation, here I can test whether this actually works. Okay, now let's have a look in our database. What does it got? I mean, we've got ubiquity, multimodality, study, test tag. So let's type if any of these things works. Let's type in a capital U and invoke. Okay, and this is what it will send back, an array of string with the word ubiquity in it. Fabulous, that's what we want. Now let's try again. Let's try M, and then invoke, click on invoke. Does this work? Multimodality, that's exactly what we want. Okay, so now we've done it. So our web service has been established, the ASMX file, which will essentially give a list of things based on the starting letters. Okay, so we've got that. That's sorted. Now, let's go back into textbox.aspx. Okay, and if we go there, essentially, the nice thing is we don't have to really write any code here. We just have to set up the page in order to be able to receive these things. So here's our autocomplete extender. Okay, now then, and here is our script manager. Now you see here, script manager is just one thing here. However, what we need to do is because we're going to have to kind of tell this page that this page relies on a web service that we have created. Okay, so what we need to do now is kind of take away that n slash here, which for in XML means a single kind of standalone thing. Okay, and that immediately causes an error because that's now no longer good XML. Okay, so what we do now is type in another open angle bracket, and there you see there is the end ASP script manager option. Okay, so now I've got, if you like, I change that now such that instead of being just one thing, it's a kind of an open tag and a close tag. Okay, good. Now in the middle of that, now I can press, I can now open and choose, click on an option which is going to be services. Okay, so I type in services. Oh dear, it's doing type for some reason not easy to type services. Okay, so type in services, and it automatically creates an end tag for me. Okay, now then, inside the services area, I open my tag and I type in ASP colon service reference. Okay, and I close that tag. Okay, and this is by necessity, it's only one tag, but inside it's got a parameter which is called path. So type in path equals, and then, I mean, you might not be able to see this in your browser, but to me, I get a list of all of the things in my website. And so here I can choose AutoComplete.asmx. Okay, so what I have to do is I have to initialize. I have to tell the script manager on the page, which is the thing doing all the kind of JavaScript we never see in the Ajax Control Toolkit, that I'm also relying on this web service. Okay, so this script manager needs to know about this web service. Okay, so we've done that. Now that's the first important point. The other important point is in the autocomplete extender. This is where we need to type in a number of other values, because it also needs to know about this service. So what we're going to do is kind of like, we've got a set of things we need to specify. Okay, so now we have, first of all, is the service path. The service path, okay, now that is exactly the same as the one above. The service path is going to be, again, autocomplete.asmx. Okay, let's put some quotes around that. Okay, and then the service method, okay, is essentially the function that we've just created. Okay, and the service method we've created, I think, is called get tags from prefix. Okay, let me just check that. So go into autocomplete.asmx.vb. Okay, and there is indeed get tags from prefix. Okay, so let's now go back into textbox.aspx. Okay, get tags from prefix. Okay, now there are a number of other things you can specify here, which are varying levels of sophistication. You can say, for example, you might wish to not show options until the user typed in at least 3 letters. But in our case, that's no point. So we'll just type in minimum prefix length equals quote 1. Okay, and will just kind of say that you know, even as soon as the user has typed in 1 letter, this kind of function of kind of polling this web service we created, that will start kicking in. Okay, so let's now stop. So I still didn't stop it from when I actually was testing the web service. Okay, I think that's what I need to do. So let's just check now if textbox.aspx is actually working. So I'm going to press. I'm pressing play. Okay, and textbox.asmx then should appear. Okay, and here you see just a text box. Okay, so let's see now the moment of truth. Will it work? So type in U. Okay, and nope, it's not working. So there's it's not quite right yet. So let's go back and find out what on earth was the problem. We know the web service is working. Okay, we know that's definitely working. So there's something not quite right yet. So So it's autocomplete.asmx, get tags from prefix. Okay, let me just check if there's anything else that needs to be set here. Okay, so now I had to rewrite it actually. In the meantime, this is coming back to the video. It failed at first, but now it works. I mean, if I type in A, for example, you'll see suddenly the word all suddenly appear. Or if I type in T, you'll get the test tag suddenly appear. If I type in U, you'll get ubiquity suddenly appear. And if I type in M, you'll get multimodality suddenly appear. Okay, so I have finally got it to work, but in the course of that, there was some mistake I had made in the coding of the first one, so I had to kind of rewrite. Basically what I did was, if I'll go back into, I'll stop it now, and I'll show you what I had to change. The page. If I view the Solution Explorer, if I go back now into, I renamed the service from being autocomplete to tagger.asmx, and I mean the code is identical inside Tagger. There's nothing changed. It's exactly what it was before, and then in the textbox.aspx. If I go now view designer, what you'll see is again I didn't change very much, except I sent it to tagger rather than autocomplete.asmx, and that seemed to make it work. I mean, there must have been, I don't know exactly what the problem was, but I mean the code was absolutely fine, and just something needed to be reset or something like that in the system. So it's kind of now. I've just kind of there's the script manager. There's a service reference to tagger.asmx. Here is my text box. Here is my autocomplete extender, which has got the target control ID is text box 1, so it says which text box it's going to be autocompleting. That is the path to the autocomplete functionality. The actual method, get tags from prefix, is here in the service prefix. I also put this minimum prefix length 1, which meant that it'll start looking for things as soon as you start typing into the box. So it does actually work, let me just play it again just to kind of like absolutely confirm to myself that it does genuinely work. And then you can, well, once you've seen this, now you see the power of something like this, you can imagine how it might be used in addition to the drop-down menu in the list of papers. So again, let me type in a U, and ubiquity appears. I type in an M, and then the multimodality appears, and I type in an A, and then the word all appears, which is not one we really want to see, but anyway, that is how you can get a text field to actually display the contents of a table inside, and thereby give the user reasonable suggestions as to what they need to do.